Welcome, everyone. This is Dr. Thor Templar, the author of 25 books, 5 courses. I've been on the Art Bell Show, the BBC, and CNN. I've been in this industry of success, task, and manifestation for over 40 years. I'm going to review a very interesting book here called Super Psychic, The Incredible Dr. Hoy by John Godwin. Now, this is a fascinating book, and so many of these people are overlooked and forgotten, particularly those who are very popular in the 60s and 70s. So, I always like to find these types of books and give credit due where it is. While the skeptics and debunkers are out there always taking care of themselves and propping each other up, the clown school graduates, the criminals, the deviants, which nobody seems to talk about, the important people that pass it have done some serious assistance to this planet, not just destroyed, like skeptics do, tear everything down, seem never to get the credit they deserve. This book was published in 1974. It's available from Bantam paperbacks at that time, or no, what is it? Pocket books. It's not an easy book to find, but well worth searching out. Those who are members of our organization can access this in our particular club library. But keeping in mind, this book is a classic, and it's only available in paperback. The last time I checked, it's around $20. You can find it here or there. But, Dr. Hoy here, whose name was actually David Hoy, was extremely popular in the late 60s. Into the 70s. Of course, that is a long time ago, and it's the heyday of people being involved in ESP, mind development, and everyone was into it. There were numerous games on the market for adults, all sorts of tools, books were flying off the shelves, magazines, etc. This was the heyday and went into the mid-80s with this. And one of the most popular people at that time was Dr. David Hoy. Now, I don't remember him personally. He seemed to have been mostly very busy in the Midwest and back east on radio shows, so I don't remember seeing anything about him personally. And of course, the 70s, I was in high school at that time, and not overly into psychic or magical stuff, mostly into which popular then was Eastern yoga and so forth, and spiritual paths that way, which were very popular. He's a very interesting character because he went to Oral Roberts University, grew up in a very fundamentalist Christian house, was a minister for a period of time, and was heavily involved in magic, theatrical magic, stage magic, and used it to teach Bible lessons, etc. So this is far from your radical hippy-dippy kind of guy. Oral Roberts University, extremely conservative. You can't listen to music, can't do anything, you can't do. And the fact that he went there and everything else in this very conservative environment in the 70s shows where he originally started off. He ended up becoming a missionary and going to all places of Brazil, which he wanted to go to, and studied voodoo there, which is quite interesting. And learned a lot of different spiritual techniques and tricks from the voodoo practitioners. And of course, everybody uses tricks as part of their scientific magical routines to impress people, because you can't do everything based on spirits all the time. And secondly, some of that isn't very impressive. So even your voodoo practitioners use that. So he studied stage magic and was involved in that initially as a way to make a living other than doing his basic minister duties, as well as the fact of he enjoyed it. Who doesn't like magic? So he was a person that was very interested in this. But he learned from a very young age, when he predicted when he was in college, that his father was going to die the next day, and told his of friends, and his father was only in his 50s, so it's not something you would expect, and lo and behold, that happened. So this was one of the major situations, but throughout his entire life, he was involved in and was able to psychically get information, know what people are thinking, and influence people as well, which is very fascinating. This book is not only kind of a brief insight into him and his practices, which went from the theatrical. Of course, as usual, the theatrical magicians and skeptics claim everybody. So if you're a psychic and you dabble in this like most people do, I'm sure Uri Geller did and so many other ones, everybody does it because you want to impress people with your power in front of them. This is how it works. When magicians do this and take hundreds of millions of dollars home, it's okay. Most of them with the illusion that they're powerful. Yes, Blaine and Chris Angel, who go around telling people that they're mystical and that they're not doing tricks, as Chris Angel told 2020 Interviewer. This is what I do. Yeah, you're a trickster. That's what you do. So they go out and claim this guy, and there's virtually nothing about his psychic work. But he worked with the police and solved many cases and assisted them and gave them very important information. These are documented. He did a lot of radio shows, and of course, you got to remember, this is before the internet, people. So he did a lot of radio shows, and of course, he was getting thousands of letters a week from people asking his psychic advice, which he originally gave out for free. Simple things like, what's wrong with me, that they're sick, where did I lose my wallet? And people did this on call-in shows as well. And he was able to give them detailed information, not sketchy stuff that's under something. He gave exact information there and was able to give people excellent psychic readings. So it's a long history of this, of him doing this work and helping as many people as he can while also dabbling in some of these areas. But most of what he was involved with was in the psychics after he went through that short period where he also made money. He created this persona, this kind of Fu Manchu type of look as a psychic, and did this for particularly Hollywood. And of course, this is how you make money. There isn't a lot of money, particularly in the 70s, for psychics. And of course, the police, no matter what you do for them, of course, while they pay off all their informants and take a lot of bribes, don't pay anybody else. So, I mean, this is a fact of life that this is how he made his money. He talked at, this guy was extremely popular. And of course, unless you're pushing 70, you probably never heard of him. Even I haven't heard of him in my early 60s. So the whole idea is that he was talking on all the college campuses. He talked to all the major corporations. He was a guest speaker. You got to remember, this is when this was big. Everybody was into it. This was the future. So everyone was open to it. Unfortunately, when this stopped, the world progression stopped, and we went into a sad decay of fundamentalist Christian nonsense. So he worked with all of these people, as well as he even worked with some business. It's been documented that a particular businessman, and it's in the book, and I highly recommend you get this because it's loaded with really good research, and beyond that, it's loaded with how-to information from him and in general of how to enhance your ESP abilities, your psychic abilities. He shows you and gives you step-by-step instructions on how it's done. Now, the person who wrote this is another noted author, and he spent a good time with Hoy and was able to see these demonstrations of his abilities firsthand. And of course, everybody's been so brainwashed by the little freaks, otherwise known as skeptics, that these are all games. Well, they certainly aren't. So, this author did research into occult America, into the mysterious things. So it's a person who was versed in this area. But he was able to verify many results of his psychic statements. So, and the book is realistic, stating that, of course, he wasn't 100% accurate. No psychics are. And there's a lot of talk on the internet of how this guy was a, quote, mentalist playing these games. Well, he did call himself a mentalist for a period of time. I'm not sure who started that, but that was part of his act to make money, just like Uri Geller and other people have done mentalist acts to, or part of it, to make an interesting show. And that's stated in the book as well. But they don't have a right to earn money. Only Chris Angel should make hundreds of millions of dollars a year with his goofy little Las Vegas act. Or Penn and Teller, the pseudo-intellectual frog people that want to make their opinions known, that know nothing and have zero education. So the whole idea is that this is the fact of it. But he went with a businessman who was working with particularly hairstylists and gave them simple psychic techniques to pass on to all of the stylists, and they sold conditioner and different hair products that were done at salons where people went to get their hair cut. And he gave them simple techniques of what to do, and the people who participated in using these simple ESP technique on their customers, and this didn't include of anything but doing a little concentrating on the person to buy the product. There were no hooda-boo-doo, and sales went up 200 to 250%. So it was quite astonishing. It just shows you, and this was verified by this businessman, it's in the book, who was far from any type of metaphysical believer. But like the military, when it comes to money, people don't care. If you can make money with it, nobody questions what's going on. They just want to see the bottom line. So, It's very fascinating when he goes into the details of all these things. If people are looking for documented cases of psychic ability and ESP, well, here it is again. And there are literally hundreds of books like this. Don't be fooled by the stupidity out there that is told to you by the dumb bunkers, because they really are dumb. They're living in caveman science. It's proven to be all incorrect, and they're still holding on to the shreds of stupidity as the dumb bunkers that they are. So, and also don't be confused, because I've these older psychics in particular are getting thrashed on Wikipedia, otherwise Sewerpedia, by misinformation by the hordes of skeptics who go out there and change everything, when he's another person that has been highly documented, a proof of what they've done with different psychics. So this is all, you've got to know where to get your information from, and get it from a professional research organization and someone who's been around for 40 years like myself, who gives you the facts that are come from third parties, not from prejudiced liars that are out there defacing these people's work and their abilities. Now, he didn't write a lot of books. He did write a few books, Dr. Hoy, and these go into a lot of his training aspects, which are difficult to get as well. But this book is filled with practical information. He tells you how to do things. One of the interesting things is that he was able to psychically program people or influence them in a situation which the author here demonstrated. One of those fascinating areas, which unfortunately there isn't more detailed practical information in it, because of the fact that people were afraid of abuse. The same old story. Certainly would be nice to know how they do it, but the bottom line is just by projecting his ESP energy, he was able to go to cashiers, particularly in restaurants, and they would give him too much change. He would tell them to give me $5 extra, and they would do it. Now, the author of this book saw this happen on several occasions when he was told that he was going to do it. And, of course, he returned the money, but it just shows you how you can psychically influence people. And, of course, they didn't even realize what was going on and didn't even think a second that they did something wrong. So the psychic influence here shows you the next level of basic empowerment, manifesting that you can do. You can manifest influence over people by actually using these ESP abilities, which are in everybody. And again, this book, like most of them, state anybody can do it. And it is true. But let's make it clear, he trained his children as well as himself and his wife and others by training them. There are, guess what, people? There are occult gym activities, like the book I've written, that you have to do to build these abilities. It is, while the capacity is there, and some people may be better at it than others. Well, that's true in all life. Some people are good with numbers, some are not. Some people can drive well, some people can't. So this is normal. But everybody can generally learn basic accounting and learn how to drive a car, I would assume, safely. So there's going to be always those that go to higher levels. But the plain and simple fact is you have to do exercises to work that dormant muscle. Time and time again, all my teachings are verified by third-party sources. It's quite exciting that I've been teaching this for years and everyone else seems to agree with me. So the whole idea is that you have to practice this and so forth. And he gives you different practices, ways to do this with spinning of bottles, cards, numbers. It's all in this book, and there are details as well that the author goes into on what certain types of psychic abilities are, and gives you details of how they work in life. So this is very much of a how-to book filled with information about this interesting guy and many of his experiences. So here again, he's proven time and time again. He also is, for those out there who are interested in what Success Tech's been involved in recently, which is the gambling area. There's several pages on him going to the racetrack and winning one after the other. I believe he won 6 races in a row. Now, we never know if they go back. They all say they don't do it. They all blah, 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 and they don't have their friends. Well, we really don't know. You don't want to be stating that. It kind of puts your head on the chopping block, you know. The point is somebody, if you do this and advertise it past a certain level, I mean, why wouldn't people show up at your door with a gun saying, hey, baby, we're going to the racetrack? Why rob a store? Why don't you get this guy? So, I mean, people have to understand that life is very complicated, full of criminals and crooks, and since there is absolutely no justice out there, and there's no anybody to go to because they're all criminals, that is very dangerous, and it wasn't any different back then. So, but there is information on that, which everyone should get that's interested in that area. So here again, we have more information discussing how you can use ESP for investments, stock market gambling. So there's a little bit of that in this book, and it's loaded, as I said, with practical techniques. So, you know, I can't recommend this book more highly. So search it out and get it, or join the actual Success Tech, and you can get access to it in our library. So remember, people, it's up to you to learn the science of manifesting, and that's what we teach at Success Tech.